From the Battery Street studios of KCBS Radio in San Francisco, I'm Matt Pitman, and this is Bay Current for Thursday, November 18th.
Attention in the terminal. In an effort to reduce the spread of COVID-19, a federal...
Have you flown recently, especially within the last month or so?
We are expecting it to arrive here in Boise about 5:50 p.m.
Then you have almost certainly experienced delays. Delays of at least an hour or two. This past weekend, I flew from SF to Boise, where my mom lives. It's a trip I make once every couple months or so. It's always on time, and only about an hour-long flight each way. But this time, no such luck. Both the flight to Boise and the flight back home to SF were delayed by over 2 hours each.
I'm sorry?
I noticed when you were going through security, you had a cat. Can I pet him?
Yes, you may pet Lola.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was traveling with a companion, Lola, my cat.
Wanna go find some food? Let's go find some food. All right, more walking around. This time it's for food. And I think this smash burger is where it's gonna be at. Let's see, classic smash. Ooh, say less, please. Avocado bacon burger. Okay, probably gonna be in a better mood if we pick this conversation up again. All right, so while I wait for my smash burger, I'll give you a little update here. A little bit earlier, I had taken to Twitter, not to gripe, but because a good friend of mine is a executive with Alaska, and he's always talked about how they look at tweets, they look at Twitter. So I tweeted, let's see, when did I do this? About 3:36. I said, 2 Alaska Air flights in 3 days, both delayed for several hours apiece. 3 hours Friday, now over 2 hours, Boise to SFO. Listen, hashtag I fly Alaska, and always will. But I also expect better, especially better communication. And so does Lola. And I put a picture of me and Lola, trying our best to look angry, but I mean, we really just look like the sweet, wonderful people we are. Just a few minutes later, get a reply from the official blue check mark and everything Alaska Airlines Twitter handle. I'm so sorry for the delays, Matt, sad face. And I apologize that better communication was not provided for you and Lola. What flight are you waiting for now? Signed, Allison. I said, thanks, Allison. It is flight 2410. And 5 minutes after that, Allison replies, looks like the incoming aircraft is running behind due to a mechanical issue. We're hoping to have them in the air very soon. Again, signed, Allison. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was really, really cool. Because it's at least answers, right? So now I've got a little info, and I've got Smashburger on the way. So life's good.
With time to kill, I struck up a conversation with one of my flight mates, also making her way home to the Bay Area, Taylor, who lives in Concord. She told me about 20% of her work requires travel, so she's in the air a lot.
Of late, and I don't know necessarily what of late constitutes, so maybe you can fill in that blank for me. Have routine delays been part of the experience?
It has, definitely. I've definitely seen a lot of delays if it's not for, whether it's for, plane maintenance or whatever it may be, but the delays are causing a huge inconvenience because I'm expected to be home and I've got animals and different things that I need to attend to.
Right.
So.
Just delays in planes arriving where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be?
Yeah, definitely. I just see, a lot of delays, and the delays are just causing a big inconvenience in my life.
And as I was walking around killing time, I'd peek up and take a look at the arrival and departure boards, and there was so much red, so many delayed flights, short flights, long flights, different airlines, you name it. So, what's going on with the airline industry? Why so many delays? The timing couldn't be worse with the holiday season here. Is it related to COVID recovery, labor shortages, staffing? To learn more, I connected with Henry Harteveldt, President and Travel Industry Analyst with Atmosphere Research Group right here in San Francisco. Are you hearing about delays in larger numbers, just in terms of flights being delayed for a number of hours? And I know that Southwest, for example, right back in October, had a real problem with some cancellations and delays. I think it was somewhere around like 29% of all their flights were delayed almost on a daily basis at various parts of October. What are you hearing industry-wide about air travel right now?
Well, aside from the usual weather-related delays, we are seeing a lot more delays arising at airlines because of lacking enough employees to work. They may not have enough pilots or flight attendants available. They have overscheduled their route networks and flight schedules, and they are struggling when something happens to cause the schedule to go off track. Airlines are struggling far more than they were before COVID to get everything back on track. So we are seeing far more of these monumental, what I call seismic level delays occurring compared to years past. So it's really, I know we're talking about airlines, but it's very rough seas right now for us as travelers. And it's unfortunate because it makes air travel, which has been stressful ever since 9/11, that much more stressful.
Yeah. Well, let's speak to some of those folks that are going to be dealing with some of that stress. You'd mentioned United and Delta. I saw a couple of tweets of yours that really stood out to me. United first. They expect 4.5 million travelers between November 19th through the 30th. That's 88% of their 2019 numbers, so right before COVID. Delta says they expect at least 5.6 million travelers between that same range of dates, November 19th through the 30th. That is up from 2.2. That's over double what they flew last year. So what should people be realistically in store for when they go to the airports here next week?
You should expect, if you're going to the airport to travel for Thanksgiving, which I am doing, you should be prepared for airports to look in terms of the number of people very much like they did before COVID. If you haven't flown since COVID hit in force early last year, you may be surprised at how many people you see at the airports, not just here in the Bay Area, but at hub airports if you're making a connection at the airport in your destination city. So be prepared for crowds. Adding a wrinkle to the Thanksgiving travel period is that November 22nd is the last day for TSA workers to get their vaccines ahead of a government mandate for government agency employees. So there is uncertainty whether there will be enough TSA workers available to work as airport security screening officers.
Oh, man.
Now, some airports like San Francisco International use a third-party service that's approved by the TSA, which may help. But other airports, including most of the other hub airports and certainly a lot of the other mid-sized and larger airports in the U.S., use TSA employees, and smaller airports, of course, also use TSA. So, give yourself extra time. I know that waiting at an airport is boring for a lot of people, but would you rather be sitting around sipping an overpriced cup of coffee, but at least at the gate, ready to go when your flight is called to board? Or would you rather be stuck in a very long line in security behind a lot of other people who are stuck in that line, none of whom are going to let you go to the head of the line?
Right.
If you are traveling within the U.S., I encourage you, and the airlines encourage you, to get to the airport at least 2 hours before your flight leaves, even if you have TSA pre-check.
Henry Harteveldt is the president and travel industry analyst with Atmosphere Research Group here in San Francisco. Really valuable information, Henry. I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes of your time.
I appreciate being included. Thank you, Matt.
All of that paints a pretty bleak picture of flying. And if part of the travel process now means getting to the airport even earlier than we were used to before COVID, and having to wait for flights even longer than we've ever been used to, is there a better alternative for air travel?
We really call ourselves a hop-on jet service. And what that means is that You can avoid the crowds, the lines, the hassles of congested airport terminals, and get many of the same perks, 90% of the same perks that you would get from private jet travel at a fraction of the cost.
That's Ben Kaufman. He is the director of marketing for JSX. It's like boutique travel. It's bougie, but it's actually affordable.
We do that by flying from what are called FBOs, fixed base operators. Those are far away on the other side of the airport. No lines, no crowds. Get there 20 minutes before your flight. Go through a seamless, non-invasive security screening, grab a coffee or tea in our lounge, hop on the jet and go. When you get to where you're going on the other side, you will get your bag back planeside a couple minutes after landing and be on your way. So it's all about convenience. It's all about simplicity. It's all of the things that people love about flying and none of the things that people can't stand.
Who's your typical traveler?
You know, we have a wide range of demographics that fly with JSX, but what I would say is our core traveler is anyone that values and appreciates their time. Because when they fly with us, you can take 2, if not more hours off of every trip, right? You're coming to a private facility 20 minutes before your flight, and you're out the other side moments after landing. This really is, on top of an elevated in-flight experience, really a matter of convenience. Now, that all said, we see a lot of different types of folks that are flying JSX. We see a lot of millennials with young children. You can imagine, especially when people have to deal with restrictions in the airport, let's say they have to bring baby food or things like that, right? Right. We don't have those same restrictions. So it's a lot easier for families with children to fly with us. But we also see a lot of business travelers. We see a lot of couples. We see a lot of friends. We see a lot of people. We have the top of the top celebrities and everything else too. So you never know what you're going to find on a JSX flight, but it's a group of people who, above all else, don't want to deal with the inhumane conditions that you find in most congested airport terminals and are willing to pay a little bit more to have a much better, much more seamless experience.
So, for example, here in the Bay Area, you mentioned the places where you guys fly out of. You do fly out of the Bay Area. You probably don't fly out of SFO. So if I was to book a JSX flight, where would I be going to hop on?
For the Bay Area, we fly from Oakland, and we also fly from Concord, which is up near Walnut Creek. And for Concord, those flights go down to SoCal. So they go down to Burbank and to Orange County. The same for Oakland, but Oakland also has service to Las Vegas, and there'll be more flights coming for Oakland here in the near future as well.
What are your price points generally compared to the major carriers like Delta, Alaska, where you're going to have to go to an airport and go through the process I just described?
Sure. So, and this is true of any carrier, much less ourselves. The pricing is dynamic, right? It is changing. But that said, as a general rule of thumb, you can find pricing on us that's very similar to what you would pay for domestic first class. So, just to give you an idea, if you get it early enough, it wouldn't be out of the question to be able to get a round trip from San Francisco out to Vegas for less than $300 each way.
I'm looking right now at a flight from San Francisco to Orange County on Thanksgiving Day for $309 round trip. That's impressive, Ben.
Yep. Well, and here's the thing, right? Is the barrier to entry with true private travel? You have these exorbitant membership fees, right? You're paying tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars just to then have the ability to book a plane by the hour for another $10,000 to $20,000, right? We're offering people that same level of convenience. It's just that our planes you're going to share with maybe 29 other people, right?
Wow.
That's the trade-off, right? And compared to the cattle call of 150 or 200 people on a plane with tons of flights going out of these main airport terminals, we look at that and say, this is a really reasonable trade-off. It's you and 29 other people, business class legroom, cocktails and drinks included. Bring your bags. We're not going to charge you for them. And you get on the plane and you just enjoy it and you end up where you want to be.
Ben Kaufman is the director of marketing for JSX. Ben, I appreciate the conversation. It was fun. It was informative. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you again to my guest, Henry Harteveldt with Atmosphere Research Group, and to Ben Kaufman with JSX. And thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Bay Current on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or just about anywhere you listen. And you can catch every episode on YouTube, on the KCBS Radio YouTube page. That's it for today's Bay Current. I'm Matt Pitman. We'll chat with you again tomorrow.